Hello and welcome to the Blackout podcast where I get to talk to amazing people that do amazing things. And today, after what, like 2 years,
Yeah.
I finally had Sinead Dubeau on the Blackout podcast. Thank you so much for coming on today.
No problem. I'm really excited to be here.
So let's start with how Corona messed things up. Because like a couple of months ago, you were supposed to have this like trip for a wedding. Actually, I think you had a trip just before.
did.
Yeah.
Yeah. So last year I did end up going to the Dominican Republic to shoot a wedding last April, which was super fun. And yeah, it was very last minute. They booked me about a week before we left. And then I got to go up there for 5 days and capture their wedding and have like a bit of a mini vacation. So it was great, but things are definitely looking a lot different this wedding season. With coronavirus, it has changed a lot of things for those of us in the wedding industry because obviously events have taken a huge hit. So as far as weddings go, the majority of the weddings that I had scheduled for this season, which would have been a full, very busy, lovely season, have had to reschedule for next year. Some of my clients have decided to do smaller ceremonies or elopements even, where it's just the two of them, me, obviously, and a few of key members like parents or their very best friends or siblings and do it that way. But I would say the vast majority, 85-90%, have rescheduled until next year.
And like I remember the very first time we spoke, I found out you kind of booked like 2 years out. And I'm thinking that's nuts. But then the more I find out about weddings and like the whole process that goes into them, because you have maybe like 4 or 5 months. And that's it. So you have to make it all work. And then, but let's go before COVID. A couple sees your Instagram or website, and then they're like, Sinead, I want to work with you. What happens from there?
So most people find me on my website, which is awesome.
What's your website?
It's SineadDubeau.com.
Sweet.
And yeah, so you can see a lot of my work on there, and there is a contact form, and that's how I get most of my clients. I do get some off Facebook and Instagram as well. So once they reach out to me, we usually set up a phone call to discuss the package options that they can choose from, which I have kind of created after a couple years in the industry where you see how the wedding days go and kind of what is necessary and what might not be necessary. So I don't really believe in 15 hours of wedding coverage because it's too much. I think that's too much, and I don't think anyone wants to be photographed for quite that long. So I do have packages that range from 5 hours to 10 hours, and you can add to 11 or 12 if you want to, but in previous years I'd definitely done some jobs that were on the 14, 15 hour mark. Wow. And it's so much content that you don't necessarily need. So I also include printed products in each of my wedding packages. So you're going to get some prints from me or an album from me, which is a great keepsake, and it gets you on the right path to printing off your photos, because I think that's important. That is the absolute best way to save them, other than you're going to download them, but you should be printing them out to save for yourself and future generations if that's in your plan. So I've created those based on that. So we have a phone call, we discuss all of those options, we figure out what works best for them. I learn a little bit more about what they're planning, whether it's a bigger wedding or a smaller wedding, or are they doing anything that is special to them during their ceremony, special to their culture, anything like that. And we get to know each other a little bit. And then before the wedding, we'll have an engagement session where we get to meet in person and hang out a bit beforehand and get used to each other and become friends. And
do you take photos in that session? Or?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So we'll do an engagement session where they get some really nice portraits of them, being engaged, being in love, that they can share. People use them for save the dates, their invitations, that kind of stuff. But for me, I offer it because it's a good way to meet them in person and get to know them and get them comfortable in front of the camera.
And that's part of the package?
Yeah, it's part of the packages. Yeah. Yeah, I think it's an important thing to do. I think it's really important to meet your photographer and get comfortable before your wedding day. So that's why I include it in those.
When you're taking photos, do you talk to them? Do you say, do this and do that? Or do you just shoot what they're doing?
No, I definitely can give some direction. direction. Some couples need more than others. I work with people who are super nervous sometimes. Maybe they don't like getting their photos taken, that kind of thing. So my job is to make them feel really comfortable. If I need to direct them, I do that. If I need to add some poses in there, I do that. I do capture, I think, a good mix of kind of posed photos, but also candid photos where they might be just having a laugh together, that kind of thing. But I definitely offer some direction when we're shooting.
Okay. So what happens after the engagement session?
After their engagement session, so at that point, they're all booked, ready to shoot for their wedding dates. And we've done the contract and they've paid their deposit, all that good stuff.
How much percentage do you take up from for deposit?
It's a flat number.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's a flat number, and it's based on the wedding package that they're booking.
Sweet.
Yeah, so after they have their deposit and their contract and we've done the engagement session and their wedding is coming up, I will call them to discuss planning the actual day and go over the timeline if they don't have a wedding planner that is planning their timeline for them.
Do people do weddings without wedding planners?
All the time, yes. Yes. I prefer that there's a wedding, I think everybody prefers that there's a wedding planner, but it's not always in everyone's budget. So when it's not, then I get to have a lot of say about the timeline usually and make sure that we have time for all the photos they want, as well as making sure that they spend the maximum amount of time with their guests. Yeah, so we work on that. We plan all that out for their big day, and then we're pretty much ready to go for the wedding.
And then on the day, let's say it's the 15-hour package. What? That's the biggest. What's the
Well, we don't do that one anymore.
It's 10 hours.
It's too much. Yeah, 10 hours.
So the 10-hour package, what's that day like?
So for that day, to me, that's like great coverage. You're going to have a lot of coverage on your wedding day. And it's great for if you're having a bigger wedding. So maybe you have a couple hundred guests, that kind of thing. So for that day, I usually start with a getting ready portion. So I go and see the bride and the bride, or the groom and the groom, or the bride and the groom separately for about an hour each in the morning. And you also get 2 photographers with 10 hours. So sometimes we split it up and one of us will go.
Oh, you work with another photographer?
Yeah, sometimes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, sometimes. So for bigger ones like that, for 10 hours, especially if it's a big wedding, then I'll have a second photographer there.
So do you have like a list of people you work with, or?
Yep,
Okay.
I do. So luckily, here in Halifax, we have a really good community. So I have lots of friends that also are photographers for their job. So usually I get to work with a good friend of mine, and I kind of have a list and see who's available.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. So then after the getting ready, what happens?
So it depends. Some couples do a first look, which is when they see each other before the ceremony.
Oh, do they do that?
Yeah, some people do it. So the traditional thing is that you see your partner coming down the aisle during the ceremony, but because of time constraints, sometimes people will do a first look. And also it helps with nerves. So if you're really nervous about going down the aisle, sometimes it's nice to see your partner ahead of time and just be like, we're still doing this, everything's okay. So when they do that, then if they choose to do that, if their ceremony is later or something, we'll do that, and then usually we can get some photos done before the ceremony. If not, we head over to the ceremony. Usually I'll try and photograph all the decor details and stuff before everyone shows up for the main event. Then we do the ceremony. I try and be pretty discreet, so I'm kind of silently running around the ceremony site during that. And then after that, I usually give them a little bit of time to mingle, and we move on to the family photos and the bridal party and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Do you have I guess, a set of rules for what you wear for the wedding itself? You have to kind of look like you're there for a wedding, but you also have to be able to run around.
Yes. So because we have to run around, and sometimes we're squatting, depending on what we're photographing, sometimes you're kind of contorting yourself into weird positions, or you're in tiny areas, that kind of stuff. I tend to just kind of keep it simple. We're all black, a nice top, some nice pants, and comfortable shoes. Bring a few changes of shoes with you. So I don't think you can be too dressed up because it's going to kind of hinder how well you can work. But it's definitely not a jeans situation. You wear some nice pants and you wear a nice top, but yeah, making sure that you're comfortable and can move around easily is key, and especially in the summer, which is when most weddings are happening, you have to make sure that you can stay somewhat cool during the day. So yeah, like jumpsuits are great. Anything that has like a little bit of movement, and yeah, just kind of hope for a breeze or some AC when you can get it, and that's how we do it.
So I'm gonna rewind now. We went to before COVID, but like, how did you even get into photography itself? Just before the wedding one, just photography, just you and your camera.
Yeah, so I actually never planned on shooting weddings ever. I started taking pictures of things that weren't, friends or family when I was a preteen, like teenager, be 13, 14. My parents used to get mad and be like, we're not in any of the photos, because I'd be taking, photos of, we'd be traveling and I'd be taking landscapes, or I wasn't very good, but I would try anyway. And they would be like, but we're not even in them, because, to them, the purpose of the camera was to get everybody in the photos.
Yeah.
So I started doing that. And then once I was finishing up high school, I saved up my money from my little grocery store job to buy my first nice camera. It like, looking back, it was not very nice, but for a teenager, it was great. And I started that. And then I took a little detour and I went to university. But while I was...
What did you study? Like...
Sociology.
Oh,
totally not relevant. Yeah, totally not relevant. It was great. Like, I liked it, but
yeah,
not relevant to what I do now. So I took a little detour, but on the side, I was always doing photos for friends, and then I started doing it for money, and I would do family, like just shoot just about anything. And then a few years after that, I was still doing other things while still doing photos in the meantime, on top of whatever job I was working. And I had a couple of people ask about weddings. So I took a few on just to give it a try. The first one I ever did was so long. It was like 14 hours. I think I got paid like $300. It was a very rough day, and it kind of put me off of weddings for a while. But then I gave it another go, and it just kind of snowballed from there. It wasn't super intentional to get started into weddings, and I still do shoot things other than weddings, but now that I'm really in the wedding industry and I've been doing this for years now, I really love it, and it's this very special kind of job. Like, it's very special to be included on such an important day for people, and it's kind of like a gift to be able to watch, them go through all of that together.
Wow. What do you love about it?
I love it all. Like, I really love taking photos of people, even though that's not what I started with. I'm not good at landscapes, so I like taking photos of people. I like connecting with people. I love talking to people, so I feel like it's a great job for someone who is really a people person, because you spend most of your time interacting and helping and avoiding crisis when it comes up. I like the technical side of it. I love editing. So on top of editing my photos, I also am an editor for other photographers. So I do enjoy that part as well.
What do you use? Do you use that one? Oh, what's it called? The batch thing? Like the batch, the app. Well, not the app that does things in batches. It's not Photoshop, the other one.
Lightroom?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I use Lightroom, but batch editing, like, can be hit or miss.
Yeah. No, that's how I kind of see it in my head. I mean, you kind of have to still do it one at a time.
Yeah.
But just it's so difficult to use Lightroom to me.
Really?
Yeah, I know.
I can show you. It's not hard. Like, I can show you. It's like, I love it. I'm a Lightroom person all the way. I barely touch Photoshop. I'm honestly terrible at Photoshop. Lightroom is... So I like the technical component, because you have to learn how to do that. And I'm self-taught photography-wise, so there's always something new to learn. Like, I didn't go to school, so I don't have a basis, I learned on my own, and I'm always taking, like, courses online and things like that, and trying to kind of step up my game and, like, learn new things. So it's a constant challenge, I guess. And obviously I love the freelance part of it, where I get to work when I feel like working, and I get to sleep in when I want to sleep in, and I get lots of time with my dog. And
what's his name again?
Frankie. Yeah, so I get, I can take a break in the middle of the day and go to the lake with him or whatever. So obviously that's a great part of it. But yeah, I like the challenge, and I like meeting new people, and I like making people feel really gorgeous. So I really love the reaction you get from your clients, like when you've captured them the way that they want to be captured, and they look happy and in love, or, if it's a different kind of shoot, they feel like they look amazing, and they do look amazing. The reaction that you get from your clients is really nice.
So other than weddings, what other different kind of shoots do you do?
So mostly boudoir, and then I also do like portraits and branding portraits.
Wait. What's the difference?
So portraits would be maybe like family or a couple session, or headshots or something like that. So I also do branding sessions, which is, for example, if you wanted a branding session for like Blackout podcast, we'd get you at work, we'd get some components of your work, that kind of thing. So I do those, and then in the like the off season, I do some fashion and stuff like that, just for fun and to kind of give you something to do in the winter. So I like to do a little bit of everything. When we are allowed to travel, I like to take travel photos, but I think that'll be on pause for a little bit. So I do a little bit of everything. Weddings are my main, like that is definitely my main job, but I do, like, I have a family shoot tomorrow and I have a boudoir session on Wednesday. So I do a little bit of everything.
So with the sessions, do you like use a studio, the client's place, where?
So it depends on what it is. For boudoir, I usually will either rent an Airbnb or we'll use a studio. I leave it up to the client what they would prefer. And then for portraits, most of them are outdoors. If it's family portraits or something, they like to do them on a beach or in a trail or like on a pathway or something that they like. Branding ones, I usually do them at someone's place of work or, something that means something to them. And then for engagements, couples, that kind of thing, I have a lot of outdoor locations that I love. Or I've also had clients suggest places to me that have been really cool. I did one in Finbar's pub before they opened a couple years ago, like in the morning before they opened for the day, and they got to bring their big sheepdog and everything.
Wow.
It was kind of like their spot where that was where they always went for drinks, so they wanted some photos there, and that was really fun. So
who would be responsible for getting the location, you or them?
Usually it's me, but if it's something specific like that, like something that, they know someone who has a cool spot or something, then they'll figure that out, but we'll collaborate to find the best spot for photos.
So one of the things you also do is like this, like not wedding, like stage weddings. Like how does that happen?
So they're called styled shoots.
Style shoots.
And they're usually so you were with me for one of those in the spring. And so usually those are for editorials. So they're for publishing, or they're to show, maybe that's a really cool spot that you've always wanted to shoot in, but you haven't had a couple book you there yet, and you just kind of want to show how you would shoot it. It's a great way to collaborate with other vendors in the industry, and also it's good to do for fun. I wouldn't take it on in the height of wedding season, but when it's a little bit before or after and things have slowed down, it's a really fun way to meet other vendors that you haven't met or worked with, make some connections. It's like you were there, so it's a fun day. Like, we have fun with it, and you get to meet some cool models. You get to try on, see fancy dresses, and it's a lot of fun, and it can be beneficial to everybody. So maybe you're trying to market, for example, if you were in a new city, and you want to market yourself in that city, you might set up a shoot in a location there so that you have some marketable material in that place. And when it comes to the other vendors, obviously as a photographer, I'm making sure that everyone gets photos of their part of the session. So that means I'm providing photos to the hair and makeup and the florist and the jewelry people and all that kind of stuff, so they can use that for their marketing, and it all just kind of, it's beneficial to everybody. Yeah.
Do you ever do the convention, like the wedding thing?
I did one. The prints that I brought for you are actually from the Atlantic Wedding Showcase that I did this past year, and they're crazy. They're huge and they're very big. It was a fun day.
So what would that involve for you?
To go to a wedding convention, a lot more work than I thought it was going to involve. So it's a lot of work. You have to print out, obviously, a lot of your work to be able to show people. You also have to find a great way to display that, which I did not do a super great job on this past time. In my head, it worked perfect, but then in reality, when I got there, it did not shape up exactly how I wanted it. But it was like a fun day. I got to meet lots of really cool people.
So what was the difference between the thoughts and the reality?
Well, I am not great at I'm not very handy. So the way that I thought that I was going to hang up my prints
Oh.
didn't turn out quite as well. And so we did have them kind of falling occasionally or becoming very crooked. So it was just something I had to keep my eye on throughout the day. And I would do it differently if I was to do it again. I did not prepare well for that part of it.
So, but like with COVID, that's not gonna happen for a while.
No. I think the next one has at least been postponed. Yeah, I don't think, unfortunately with events, I don't think we're going to be able to host anything big in the next little while.
So one thing that I've been noticing on Instagram is that a lot of photographers have been doing online shoots. Do you
Yeah.
know this? How does that work? Like,
Yeah,
do you
so
shoot through a webcam or?
yeah, so they're like by webcam or FaceTime or something like that. Now that restrictions have loosened up a little bit here, I don't think people are doing it as much, but
Oh, okay.
I did do a couple when this first started in
So
March.
what would that involve?
Basically involves calling someone on a video app of your choice, and you can tell them how to pose, and you're going to direct them.
And then you shoot through what?
You take screenshots on your phone. So they're not great quality. Like, they're obviously not great quality.
I
And
wasn't thinking I should have.
No, that's okay.
Yeah, I was like, how the okay.
Yeah, so like it doesn't. It's hard to imagine how it would go until you're doing it, and it can be quite hard because you're trying to direct someone, but you can't really show them what you're doing. You're not there, so you can't be like, I need you to turn a 1/4 inch this way. It was a fun challenge, and it's a cool way to get creative with your editing, and they're not super high resolution photos, so that they're not. They're not getting hung up in anyone's house probably, but
Yeah.
I mean, they might, but yeah, it's just a fun way to like play around with editing and maybe hang out with, like, if you have models that you're friends with and stuff and you don't get to see them, it's a nice way to kind of connect with them. And yeah, so those are pretty fun. I actually have a tutorial on how to do that on my blog.
So that was the other thing. You do tutorials. How do you decide what you're gonna share and teach and talk about?
So I do mentoring. So I mentor other photographers in the city, and it's up to them really what they want to kind of learn. So I have a basic list of here's what I can offer you. Like, here's things that I'm knowledgeable about. And they can kind of pick, I need help with consistent editing. I'm having a hard time finding my style, or I don't like the way my website looks. Like, what would you recommend for that? Or I'm really not good at closing bookings. I have a hard time getting them to finally like decide on me and sign the contract, that kind of thing. Or maybe they need help with pricing or something like that. So usually we go over a few of those different things. So I have different mentoring options. Like, you can do a phone call, we can do a meetup, we can do a whole shoot, where I can walk you through exactly like how I would shoot.
Oh, they would be shooting on you'd kind of be like guiding them.
Yeah. So we would both be, if they wanted to learn how to shoot a couple, we would find a couple to work with, and obviously they'd get some lovely photos in exchange for their time. And I would be there shooting with them, and I can show them how to pose. I can show them how to get, create some moments for the couple where they're capturing a little bit more emotion, just kind of show them how I would do it, and also how exactly I would shoot it. So maybe, they're finding that their photos are too bright or they're too dark or whatever. Kind of show them how to fix those little technical aspects that would get them a better shot.
Oh, wow. And how long does it last for, the mentoring?
The mentoring, I mean, as long as until they feel like they have gotten as much as they can from me. Yeah. So it's different for each person. I offer like different options, but it can be pretty customized. So if you decide we've spent 4 hours together, we've done a shoot, we've talked about your website, we've talked about your pricing, like we've gone over everything, and you're ready to like be set free to do your own thing, then that's fine. I'm in contact with like anyone I do mentor, like we're in pretty good contact afterwards. So if they have follow-up questions, that kind of thing, like that's no problem. I'm always there to help with that. Yeah.
So like, I guess, do you ever have a situation where a couple booked you and you're like fully booked and then you pass them along?
Yeah, absolutely. That happens all the time. Like, that happened yesterday. So that happens a lot, where, because you can only book so many dates, for weddings particularly, there's only so many weekends that people host those. So you get a lot of inquiries for the same date, and normally I'll pass them on depending on the couple and like what they're looking for. I will try my best to recommend someone who would suit what they're looking for. But yeah, so I have a list of photographers that I work with regularly, that I really like, that I think would do a wonderful job if I'm not, available for their date, or people that their style looks similar to mine. So I can, I have a lot of people I can recommend comfortably, and I feel great about sending a couple that way. And then, yeah, if I'm not in the budget for a couple, like I also have people that if their budget is a little bit lower than what I can offer, that I can send them along to
How long have
someone
you been
newer.
shooting now?
Oh my goodness. Like in general, or
No, like paid to shoot.
paid to shoot? I don't know, like probably 8 years, I would say. Yeah, and then weddings for the last 4.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, would you say in the city you're kind of in the like top range price wise?
I don't think so. I would say I'm in like the average. Like
Okay.
there's a wide range. There's an incredibly wide range when it comes to wedding photography. You can find someone who's going to shoot your whole day for $200, or you can pay $10,000. It really is.
What, like, would you be able to tell the difference?
I would hope so. Yes, I would. Yeah, I would say for sure. But like I was saying, like my first wedding, I was paid $300. I think I was 18 years old, maybe 19. Just I was a baby, and I didn't have backup equipment. I didn't have insurance. Like I didn't have any of the things that you would have.
Wait. Did you say insure? Like, what did you? Oh, so what would you insure? Like, so what does the insurance cover? Like your camera or that? Oh shit, the memory card wiped.
All of it. So yeah, because that happens. Like that totally happens. I had 2 hard drives fail on me this past year.
Fuck me.
Yeah, and I had to like send them to the States and get them recovered, and just like the stress is insane. And then obviously like your couples could totally sue you over that. So yeah, you're gonna want to have insurance for liability. If you have a technical failure, because there's nothing you can, if that happens.
Would you put a clause in your contracts against that, or?
Oh yeah, yeah. I think that's pretty standard because again, like
it's a fucking electronic shit.
Yeah, so at the end of the day, like if my camera dies, but that's why you need to have someone who has backup gear and has situations in place where they can kind of try and prevent that. So for example, most people will use cameras that have dual slots for cards. So you're already backing up the photos that are
to that one.
Yeah. And then they'll have a second camera, maybe even a third camera.
And you always shoot RAW?
Yeah.
Okay. So your files are just massive.
Yep.
So like you have a corner in your room that's just full of hard drives and stuff.
Yep. Yeah, in my little office there's a lot of hard drives, which is fine.
Yeah.
I finally got to the point where I am okay with deleting the shots that I didn't flag to edit.
Oh.
Because I definitely overflag. Like, for a wedding that I want to deliver 800 photos, I'll flag like 1,500 or 1,600. And I finally
800.
Yeah, or 1,000 or.
That's just, man, like it's. How many kisses are they going to take?
It depends on how the day goes, though, honestly. Like, I don't make any promises for what I can deliver. Because if it pours rain on your day, we're going to maybe have less photos than if we had a bright, sunny day with sunset photos at the end and that kind of thing. But, you do take a lot of photos. So I might take 4,000 photos in a wedding day. And I might save 1,500 of that. But I finally got to the point where I'm okay with tossing.
The ones you don't use?
Yeah.
So how long do you keep copies?
As long as I, until the hard drive is dead and, it could be 10 years from now. I always try and keep them because I have no reason to get rid of them. And also, like, it's good to see your growth. So if 8 years ago I shot something and I want to compare it to, that's always something to do. And it's nice to see where you've grown. And then especially for clients, like I can't, we can't guarantee that we'll always have your photos, but God forbid if something ever like happened and they lost them or something, I don't want them to, I like to keep them so that I can resend them if God forbid I ever have to. Yeah. And I can't make any promises because you never know, because hard drives fail and that's just the way it goes. But I do try and hold on to them too for as long as I can.
So what's the biggest single hard drive you have?
I think eight terabytes. And I have 2 of those, I think. Yeah, I probably use like a new hard drive every year, but maybe not quite that big. But yeah.
What is your naming convention for files?
My naming convention? not very good. Yeah, like I usually do like the first initial of each member of a couple for weddings.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not like I have them all sorted by like weddings and portraits and the years and things like that, and I make sure everything is backed up, so it's backed up onto a second hard drive, and then it's also backed up into a cloud, and then it's also backed up.
What do you use for your cloud service?
Crash Plan.
What?
Crash Plan.
What's that called? Well, I've never ever heard of that.
It's one of the better ones if you have a lot of files.
What size do you get?
It's unlimited size. So I pay like a monthly subscription, and it like runs in the background of my computer to make sure everything is backed up onto their cloud, and you can retrieve your files if you ever need to. Yeah.
Crash Flow, check it out. I've never heard of that one.
I think it's like $10 a month. It's not too bad.
So like now your size, the size of files you have in this Crash Plan thing is what size?
I don't know, like 17 terabytes or something. Like
That is crazy.
yeah.
So just crashplan.com and then that's their website, I guess?
Yeah, it's like their website, and then you download the app thing that you need for your computer, and you can have it run in the background, and it just makes sure everything is up to date. And they send you little reports saying everything's backed up, or hey, lady, like you haven't backed your stuff up, and it'll remind you, and it's great.
Okay, that sounds cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you have the drive, the backup, then the cloud and stuff.
Yeah. You want to make sure that you back up your stuff. Literally, like it's everybody's nightmare that they're gonna lose some photos they're working on. I was lucky when my hard drives crashed. I did have one wedding that I hadn't done like my multiple backups yet. But I had a friend shoot the wedding for me, so she was able to send me the images, which was great. But, one thing that I did learn when that happened is that I hadn't backed up the actual work I had done. So although all the photos were there, all of the editing I had already done was gone.
So you have to edit it again?
Well, I had to wait and see if they could recover it, which can be a long process. And luckily they did, so I didn't have to do it again. But I thought I was going to have to kind of restart on a lot of my work. So that was a lesson learned, that not to just back up the photos, but to back up all of the work that you've been doing.
Yeah, that was going to be my question. Like, at what point do you do the backup? Like, do you do it, once you get back from the wedding, or when you finish editing?
I usually, as soon as I get back from the wedding, I start backing up the photos, just to have those covered. What if I spill my coffee on the memory card, something like that, which, like, fingers crossed, will never happen. But if it did, I like to make sure that they're all backed up. I usually start, if I don't get home too late, I'll start overnight, where, they can do their thing while I'm sleeping. And I try and get them all backed up within the first couple days. And then for editing, now that I have Crash Plan, which is great, it just backs up as I go.
You're doing. Yeah. Oh, man, that's a really, really cool process. So you take thousands and thousands for the wedding with the boudoir and the portraits. Is it also thousands?
No, I would never get through them. Weddings are thousands because they're so long.
Oh, yeah. So the other one's like an hour, or how long do you shoot for?
Usually between 1 to 2 hours.
Okay.
So with a boudoir session, they usually get their makeup done, that kind of stuff. So it might run 2 to 3 hours. Portraits, I usually say it's around an hour, but I basically shoot until I feel like we've gotten what we need. So if it takes them an hour and a half because maybe they're nervous, or it only takes us 45 minutes because they were so easy to shoot. I'm not really that picky on the time. I just want to make sure we get the images that we want to get out of the session.
Okay. So do you deliver them a hard drive or what?
I deliver them online, so they can download like the full resolution photos. They can also use the links.
Through this Crash Plan thing, or?
No, through Pixie Set. So
see,
there's so many moving parts. Yeah, there's so many different things you have to keep track of. Yeah. So it's this website where you can see your online galleries. So it would be the same as if you use like Google Photos or something for your personal stuff, but this is for business, so they can also order prints.
So it's also like a subscription thing, or?
Yeah. So I pay monthly to be able to use their service.
And you can, how much space do you have there?
I don't know. I try and because you pay basically based on what you use, so I do try and remove stuff after some time.
So like a couple is done, you've edited your wedding, you put it there. How long do you put it there for?
So, per my contract, it is there for 30 days.
Okay.
But realistically, it's there until I feel like taking it down. So usually the next year when I need more space, for weddings. That's
Wow.
kind of when I'll go in and maybe clear them out.
Do you message them, say, I hope you got your stuff?
I can actually see if they've downloaded it.
Oh,
So
cool.
that's the great thing, is that I can check and make sure.
Like, does it list the things they've taken and or downloaded, or what does it do?
Yeah, so it lists everything they've downloaded, and they can also send it to family members. So family members and friends, they can take that link and send it to whoever they want so that they can save photos. So I can see that, like, it's been, you know what I mean, so that I'm not deleting something that hasn't ever been downloaded. And I do make sure that they know they have a certain amount of time that it's going to be there to download.
It said on your contract 30 days.
Yeah, so I do remind them of that. But yeah, usually a little longer than that.
Barry, someone's downstairs. Yeah. No, it's fine. Still rolling. Okay. Yeah. So I guess let her go. Okay, we're good. Yeah.
Did you, can I talk?
Yeah.
Okay. You said before this you were doing accounting, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So could you talk about that? Also, I guess, Israel, you can ask a question about that. And I think what I wanted to have you answer was maybe when people don't know what they want to do in their life, right? Like, what would you suggest? Like, where to start, how to start, since you've had so many different jobs.
Sure. And I should clarify, accounting clerk, not like fancy accountant.
You saying?
I was just clarifying, like, I was an accounting clerk, so I wasn't like, I didn't go to school for accounting or anything, just was working in the accounting, like, division.
But
Yeah.
that's the point, like, and you didn't go to school for photography, and
Yeah.
you're doing so amazing. It's like,
Oh, thank you.
Okay. So it's still rolling. Yeah. So I was wondering. I mean, you do all this cool stuff. Who takes your photos?
Who takes my photos?
Yeah.
Nobody. I don't like being in photos, actually. I'm not very good at it. It's something I'm trying to get better at.
Why
Because
not? Like you're taking all this like.
I know. I think it's a thing with a lot of photographers. Like, we don't love when it's turned on us. It's something I'm trying to get better at, and I have lots of photographer friends who are really lovely and like happy to, help me take photos for branding for my own business, and we swap photos for that kind of stuff. But it's, I'm mostly like my dog in photos, and I stay out of them. Yeah, maybe the occasional iPhone selfie, but that's about it.
So when you're not shooting and stuff, how do you relax, or what do you do to relax?
So I work a lot. I mean, like, COVID aside, I usually work like a lot. I do try and work on my time management so that even if I'm working into the evening, I stop around 8 o'clock. So I have like some time. Obviously I hang out with my dog a lot. I go see my parents. They only live over in Enfield, so I go and visit with them. My little sister lives downtown too, so I see her quite a bit. Hang out with my friends. I live in a really cute neighborhood, and we all know each other, so we'll have drinks and that kind of stuff. So, some wine, and I love to read. So I usually like to read for like an hour a day at least. Hang out with my friends, go out for food, like try some new restaurants. Yeah, get down to the waterfront, go for a walk, that kind of thing.
It's
I love
nice
to
that we
swim.
live in this cool, beautiful city.
Yeah, it's great. We have a lot of options.
So, in the near future, whenever it happens, you'll want to get married. What will you look for when you're picking? I don't know.
I don't know if I want to do that.
But like when it comes to choosing someone to shoot you, that's I guess where I was going with that
Yes.
question.
For me,
What would we be looking for?
what would I be looking for? Honestly, like someone who is experienced in shooting like all body types for sure. It's probably gonna be someone I know, like realistically. It would be someone that I'm already friends with. Yeah, and someone who has true to color shooting. So I like to consider
What was that?
basically, with photography, there's lots of different trends, of course. So you have like moody photographers who are on the darker side of things, and then you have people who are super, super bright on the brighter side of things. I like to think I'm like kind of in the middle. So I'd probably be looking for someone else who's like kind of falls in the middle of that. Just because that's like my preferred style.
Why do you prefer that?
I think it's more timeless. I think 50 years from now, if I was showing grandkid, like honestly, I don't know if I'm doing any of this, but if I if I had those, if I had grandkids or something and they wanted to look at them, I think it lasts through time. Like it's something that's still gonna look really gorgeous 50 years from now. And not that the other ones don't, but just for me, that's my personal preference. So I like to look at like different film types and things like that, and those usually stand the test of time. So I like to base my editing on those. So I would probably choose someone else who also does that. And yeah, that to me, photography would be the most important part of my day if I was to get married. It would be something small with like a really awesome photographer, and that would be my biggest splurge, I think.
Do you think you tell the person what to take?
100%. Yeah, I would. Yeah. Yeah. I feel like I would maybe not be the ideal client because I'd be a little bossy. Yeah. So, I mean, I wouldn't be my ideal client just because I would be really bossy. But, you know, I would hope that it's someone I know and love and they can deal with it. But
So here, you know, COVID is over, whatever, you know, someone fills in the form, sends it to you, and the person is exactly like you. How would you handle yourself?
I have definitely had clients that are more particular, clients who kind of go into it with a set idea of what they want for photos. I think the best thing you can do is like manage their expectations and say like, I will absolutely photograph whatever happens on your day. But you know, if this particular part of it doesn't happen, I can't photograph it because it's not there. But yeah, for the most part, I work with my clients to try and get everything that they envisioned. I really want to understand what it is that they want. So I don't mind when people send me Pinterest boards and everything. Like I try and explain that we can't recreate everything that you're seeing on the internet, but we can try and get the kind of images that you like. Let's pick out the things that you like the most about these images so that I know, and we can try and work with that.
Does the camera you use matter? And you using Nikon?
I use a Nikon, but I don't think it matters. Yeah.
Why not?
I think the lenses matter. I think like the focal lengths that you're shooting with matter, but the actual like camera itself, like phones have great cameras. Like you can take an amazing shot with a phone. Not that it's a replacement for, don't ever get someone to shoot your wedding with like a phone. But you know, like you can take a great portrait with a phone. Like you can do that these days. I think the best camera that you have is the one that's with you. So if you're just walking around and you have your cell phone on you, maybe you have like a mirrorless camera that you carry around with you because it's smaller. Like then at that moment, that's gonna be better than having, you know, your biggest camera with 7 different lenses. Like it's whatever you have with you.
So you have fixed focal lens?
Yeah, I shoot with primes because they're my favorite.
I mean, yeah, they look good and stuff, but then you just move around.
You sure do. It's like a whole workout. Yeah, it's like how I get my exercise in.
Oh, I'm lazy. I just wanna. But to you, I guess, what do you say is the difference between just like, you know, fixed focal lens and the zoom lens?
So for me, it's the quality of the portrait that you get with it. So if I was like traveling or something, a zoom lens would make total sense because you have a lot more range. Even though I still don't use it, but that would make more sense. But for portraits and things like that, you do get a nice, like sharper, nicer quality portrait from a fixed focal length lens.
And what are the lenses you use? You love using? So on a typical wedding day, what lenses would you use?
So on a typical wedding day, I would bring my 85. That's my favorite. I do have a 105 that would be more for like ring shots or something like that. It's very heavy and it's okay for portraits, but you'd be pretty far away from your clients at that point. So depending on how you feel about that, I like to be pretty like, not now because COVID, but normally I like to be pretty like cozy with them and pretty close so that they can hear me and I can direct them and pose them. So my 85, 50, 35, I'll bring a 24 for like wider shots of the reception or the ceremony area, or decor or something. But the ones that get the most use are my 85 and my 50.
How often do you switch them?
Not that often. I like to use my 85 for portraits. It's my favorite one. And then it really just depends on the space that I'm working with and the location that I'm working with, and also the kind of shot I'm trying to get. So if I want kind of a wider shot because maybe we have a beautiful sunset happening, I'll switch off the 85 and switch to something a lot wider. But if it's, you know, a beautiful portrait and we're showing them kissing and it's just a nice close-up portrait, then 85 all the way.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I'm lazy. I don't.
You don't like to do the moving around, yeah. No, I am constantly running around, but it's good for you. I'm young, I can do it.
So I guess what's the plan now?
Plan now, like
Yeah, even during this
during
COVID
this.
thing, yeah.
Well, I'm trying to make the most of it. I don't normally get so much time off in the summer, like ever. So that's kind of a big deal. So I've gone to Cape Breton with my family. We're going to PEI in a couple weeks. I've been hanging out with people on the weekends, which I usually don't have any of those. So I'm just kind of trying to enjoy that because next year is going to be really busy, which is great. This year was also supposed to be really busy. I thrive on that, but I'm trying to kind of stay positive with the changes. So from now, I'm making sure that all of my clients that were supposed to get married this year are taken care of for next year, booking some new work for next year as people start reaching out. And yeah, just trying to work on my business, the back end of things, making sure that my website is updated. And I did do a few
You
weddings.
do your website yourself?
I do. I
Cool.
do every part of it myself. I do the accounting, I do the editing, I do the shooting, I do the website, I do the marketing.
Oh my
I do
God.
it all. Yeah. Yeah. So I mean I'm still pretty busy.
Yeah.
And I've still been shooting a little bit this year. So like I said, I have 2 sessions coming up this week. I've still had a couple of weddings, like very small weddings this year. So working on finishing those up, doing some branding. Yeah, trying to stay busy, but also enjoy the time that I have this year that I don't normally get to enjoy.
Okay, I'll end it with this. So, I mean, you've done all these things, and it's like you're pretty much leaving your passion. What advice would you give to someone?
For me, I think I took too long to finally take the leap and just do it. It's something that I wanted to do from high school on, and I spent a lot of years thinking it wasn't feasible, that I wouldn't be able to work full time, like in the arts, when I should go to university or do something else, or I should really work hard to get a corporate position and work my way up through one of those companies, just doing administrative stuff. So I've worked a lot of jobs and I've always done like the 2, and it's exhausting. And I wish that I had taken the leap to just give this a full shot years earlier. So that would be my advice, is that if there's something that you've really been working towards for years and years and that's what you can picture yourself doing, then if you have the opportunity, like if you feel like you are stable enough to take the opportunity to pursue that as a full-time career, then I think that you should. And not everyone has that opportunity. I was fortunate, I said I can do at least 6 months, and if I make $0, I'll be okay. But yeah, so I think that if you have been working really hard towards something and that's really what you want to do, I would suggest taking the leap, because if it works out, then that's fantastic. And if it doesn't, you're not back at square one. You have other experience to fall back on, and you'll figure out your next step.
Sweet. Wow. Thank you, Sinead.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure.